Hi everyone. This week our focus shifts to critical literacy and the 4 resources model. This short video aims to help you understand what critical literacy is and how it differs from other theories of literacy development we've explored in previous weeks. It endeavours to help you know what each resource of the 4 resources model represents and the knowledge and skills that are typically taught using each resource of the 4 resources model. This diagram incorporates lots of key words to describe and show what critical literacy is. When we look at text from a critical literacy perspective, we believe that texts are not neutral, and this means that they carry hidden agendas or biases of the author. It is up to us as readers or viewers of these texts to think actively as we read, to think critically as we read, and unpack what these hidden agendas and biases are. People who are critically literate challenge the status quo. They don't just accept the information that's presented to them. They interrogate multiple perspectives, so trying to see the situation from multiple stakeholders' points of view, considering the social justice or social injustices that exist in the world today, and taking social action to do something about it. An example of how critical literacy has impacted my own behaviours relates to the price of milk. Widespread coverage of this issue in both mainstream and social media has heightened my awareness of the plight of farmers and the fact many of them are being paid less for milk than it costs them to produce it. The impact for me as a consumer is I've made a conscious decision to seek products that pay a fair price to farmers and not purchase the supermarket branded milk any longer. So we've learned that bottom-up theory and the skills model are excellent for teaching the foundational skills of literacy. We've learned that top-down theory and the whole language model are good for teaching comprehension, engagement with texts, learning through collaboration, and acknowledge that the skills of reading, writing, speaking, and listening are all interconnected. And we're learning this week that critical literacy is an excellent way of teaching children the higher order thinking that is required for them to be questioning the bias in the texts that they read. One way for teachers to apply critical literacy is to implement the 4 resources model. And a real advantage of this model over others is that it essentially incorporates the features of bottom-up theory, top-down theory, and critical literacy theory into the one model. The first quadrant of the model looks at code-breaking practices, and this includes those foundational reading skills that we learnt about in week 1, such as phonological awareness, the explicit teaching of phonics, a child's ability to read fluently, their understanding of grammar and syntax, and that awareness of whether things make sense. It transfers from skills in reading to skills in spelling, punctuation, and writing, and an extension of this from a digital literacy point of view is their ability to communicate via the keyboard and express their ideas digitally. It also extends to longer pieces of writing, so it's important to know that code breaking is not just for the early years of primary school, but it also covers discourse as well. And when we refer to discourse, we're talking about any extended piece of text on a particular topic. I've added the word text type and genre there to help you to be able to contextualize what discourse is. The second resource of the model, text meaning practices, refer to the practices that children use or anyone uses in order to make meaning of the text. So essentially it's covering a range of comprehension strategies. We learnt last week when we looked at the whole language model and top-down theory that before teachers read a text to or with children, they will engage in rich conversation to help children activate and connect their prior knowledge to the content of the text. Other strategies that teachers might teach through explicit instruction or through other instructional strategies include visualizing, predicting, making connections, and this includes connections between the text and self, the text and others, and the text and the world around us. It includes monitoring understanding, and this means helping children to identify when they lose meaning and go back and do something about it. It includes questioning, inferring, and the ability to summarise text and synthesise text to acknowledge new information. The third resource of the model, pragmatic or text users, refers to our social or communicative uses of language. The Australian curriculum advises that there are 3 genres which need to be taught in schools. These include the broad categories of imaginative text, informative texts, and persuasive texts. And under these broad genres are a range of text types. These include, for example, letters, speeches, essays, recipes, reports, emails, web pages, short stories, and so on. So going back to that term I mentioned previously of discourse, these particular text types are all examples of discourse. So extended texts used to convey particular ideas on a single topic and for particular purposes. When we are teaching children how to write, a typical approach used in school follows genre theory. And what this means is that children are explicitly taught or taught through inquiry, depending on the approach adopted by the teacher, the particular structures and features of the genres there and the text types that the students are studying. So in other words, children would know how a letter is structured. They would know the purpose of writing a letter. They would moderate their language depending on the purpose and audience of the letter, and so forth. So the final resource in the model is critical practices. And as I've mentioned earlier, this relates to a child's ability or anyone's ability to think critically about a text. It includes analysis and evaluation, looking for things such as author's bias, questioning the validity or even the credibility of the claims made in the text, distinguishing between facts and opinions, identifying hidden agendas, exploring issues and interrogating these things from multiple perspectives. So understanding the perspectives of different stakeholders or different individuals presented within the text or in broader society. It's considering the social, cultural, historical and political context of the texts. It's raising questions about social inequality and encouraging social action where it's warranted. It's those questions that we ask of text, not just accepting the text to be factually correct, and it doesn't matter what type of text it is. It's that awareness of purpose and audience, and it's knowing how the text is in fact positioning the audience to think and act in a particular way. So in conclusion, just to revisit the learning intentions, to be successful here you need to ask yourself, do you understand what critical literacy is and how it differs from other theories of literacy development? If you're still unsure, then go back to all your readings and do some additional research just to clarify this understanding. Do you know more about each resource of the 4 resources model, and do you know the types of knowledge and skills that are taught based on each resource of the 4 resources model?